I did nothing wrong
Charlie,
today.
we're being psychologically manipulated.
Qiuyuan is someone we oddly cannot view after his small test in 2.7. He and his weapon are not there in the gallery like previous units. Thankfully, you could view him during his test, and there's some interesting things with him. This is a pre-full release look and expectation video for him, so there are some aspects that will be up in the air because you could only play him solo and in a controlled environment. Expect a follow-up video later when I get him because I will get him, and some of my other thoughts will be saved for when he is fully in my hands. For now though, let me give you the breakdown. Sorry, my bad, this one. We'll do the goal for his kit and the roles he fits in, like house husband, echo builds you could consider, his weapons, some things to pin in the back of your mind, and lastly, my take and if this sexy green man may meet expectations. Timestamps are here as usual. As a TLDR, Qiuyuan is interesting and offers unique value that no other character in his archetype has offered yet. He's like a slight inverse of Yuno in a way where his damage at base don't show to be too high on paper, but that is offset by his powerful innate universal crit damage buff, along with his unique echo buffing effects that are also universal. He shows a lot of promise, but with things being semi-unclear in a handful of areas, his full release will need to come for a better stance on his value. I expect many meta-related Doom posters watering down his efficacy, so expectations will be falling short for them. Expect that from others, but not me. I will get him, and I think I might offer something many won't. So come see me again when he's out. I think his potential is a bit bigger than people will give him credit for. Let's start with his kit goals and roles. And let's start with his roles first because that's significantly easier. Based on the in-game things, he's labeled as a heavy attacker with fast concerto and echo damage amping. All of that is true, but it's also not fully right. The part that isn't totally right is his heavy attacker role. He's actually our first split scaled unit. He is splitting his damage scaling between two different kinds of damage in significant parts of his kit. Most of his kit has heavy attack damage as the main type, intro skill, dodge counter, ink wash stage 4, and the Thus Spoke blade attacks, which is his full forte. However, the rest of his kit is considered echo damage, namely his outro attack, his liberation, and his skills. This means that his echo damaging attacks will be harder to buff because as of now there's nobody that is an echo attack buffer except for himself and his weapon. This means the universal buffers will be more valuable if you're trying to play him as a main damage dealer, at least for now. The good news is that he will still greatly benefit from heavy attack buffers as you'll simply be using that side of his kit more, and that's also where more of his damage and utility lies, at least at base. Speaking of utility and damage, how do you get those things? Qiuyuan's goals for kit function aren't too hard. It's a simple fill up his gauge to reach an enhanced state and use a special attack. You fill up his gauge, aka Swordster Soliloquy, which I will just be calling Soliloquy, by doing the last basic of his normal attack string, dodge counter attacks, or intro skill. The normal and dodge counter attack give 100 soliloquy or half a bar, while his intro gives 400 soliloquy or 2 bars. Each segment of the bar is considered 200 soliloquy and they add different boons to both Qiuyuan and the party. Bar 1 enhances Qiuyuan with Thus Spoke the Blade Ink Wash, and it changes his basic string into a 4-string combo with higher scalings. Bar 2 gives Qiuyuan and the party a 30% echo skill damage buff for 30 seconds. Bar 3 puts you in the Ink Splash Mind state and changes your heavy attack. You're given 8 seconds in this state and it's indicated by this white bar underneath, as well as the world changing and sound cue.
Hold this blade. Your life is mine to take.
This activates immediately and means you have 8 seconds to use his full forte where you go down the bar to perform the attacks, to teach, to save, and to sacrifice in that order. There's more to his kit like all the buffs, but I'm not going to mention them here because I want more information on these aspects once I get him. I believe I might offer up something few will, but I want to make sure I'm right or wrong first. Next up, his echoes. The most optimal looking set is looking to be the 3-set Law of Harmony. However, he's not locked to this and I think we'll need to wait a little bit. The reason I say this is because, again, we weren't given a lot of time in his 2.7 battle. He strangely has maybe more flexibility than I initially thought, so I have a few ideas that go beyond the 3 set. The set description is kinda oddly worded too, so there may be some wacky woohoo pizza man stuff going on. But outside of the 3-piece set, the Sierra Gale could be a good temporary set. Windward Pilgrimage should be considered more seriously as well. Because of the crit rate buff, it may lower the amount of crit rate you'll need to reach the max crit damage buff you give to your allies outlined in his Liberation. This will need to be tested in that area, but as a set it's looking very good for him and could be a free-to-play option for offsetting crit ratios if you don't have crit stat weapons. For me, I currently have a 3-set Law of Harmony and plan to use a 2-piece Lingering Tunes. There's some stuff to test out, but these are starting points, and I'll tell you my full ideas once he's out. Also, yes, you can give him Moonlight 2 for a full support role. Let's talk weapons now. Do I really need to tell you his weapon is good on him? It's so fucking obvious. It buffs him, plays into his damage type, and his role as a quick concerto damage dealer with buffing support. The thing you really need to pay attention to though is if this would work with anyone else you have, or if you're wanting to get this for some kind of future vision, which personally I don't like using as a prospect for pulling or not. It may be a little too niche for some, and you will be able to most likely get away with using Emerald Genesis if you want to save. It gives an attack buff in its passive, but since it's also the same archetype as his preferred weapon, you get the same amount of crit rate, which again plays into his Liberation buff passive. If you don't have that, I think the 4-star options would be the Somnoir Anchor, Commando of Conviction, Endless Collapse, and the not widely talked about sword, the Crafted Sword, sword number 18. This at max refinement gives you a nice 36% heavy damage buff when you're below 80% HP. It's free for anyone, you just need the right materials. You can do an all attack kind of team or shield focused one with someone like Qiuyuan Wu to leverage both his shield given at his max sequence chain and his interruption resistance. This would allow Qiuyuan to go fuller on the offensive while getting some safety. The sword won't be the strongest, but I think anyone who may not have 5-star weapons should know about this sword, as not everyone is in the same position with their account. Now that you get how to use him, an outline of echo sets, and some weapons, there are some notable things that I think will be more or less important, but we need to get our hands on him first, so you'll need to pin these ideas in the back of your head. The first thing that is definitely more important is his Inkwash mind state when at full forte. You need to commit sooner than later to it because again, it activates as soon as you get max forte. Make sure to use his forte when it's there or else you miss out on his damage. This actually happened to me when I was fighting Scar, and before I could finish his last 2 bars of his forte, they disappeared as soon as the state was over. This limits his playstyle a little bit, or at the very least makes you a bit more cognizant of where he is in his forte. If you're quick swapping around or generally swapping around, you may waste his forte. I would say at the very least try to get that first bar done because that does more damage compared to his last 2. At base, this isn't that big of an issue because his role, on paper, isn't one that is looking to be the next Phil Swift.
Your life is mine to take.
This is due to his lower multipliers, again, all on paper. However, if you make it to sequence 3, which is a massive fucking sequence buff, by the way, this becomes more important because his forte gets a huge 600% increase along with many other things. We can talk about his sequences at a later time because there's too much I don't know. The key thing, just make sure to not waste his Inkwash mind state because 8 seconds passes quickly when fighting. The second thing is that he may be prone to the in-air problem I've talked about quite a few times already with people like Brant, Cheng-Li, and Yuno. While he doesn't necessarily live in the air like those units, this applies potentially more so to Qiuyuan because he doesn't get interruption resistance when doing certain attacks. I believe the idea behind him is to use his stagnation abilities and immunity seen on his heavy attack and skill. This is for insurance and fluidity, at least if you don't have sequence 1. The immunity and stagnation create safety and leads to you having free openings. So if you lean into that idea, you may want to be a bit more patient with attacks so you can safely get off certain moves and not be interrupted. The last thing is in relation to his skill. While it's echo skill damage and not necessarily a big part of his kit as it doesn't feed into his forte, it is something that again offers gap closing, immunity, and stagnation upon the attack, so it has great utility in keeping him safer. What'll need to be pinned are the best times to use his skills and which ones. While they both offer the same total damage, the hold skill has it split up into a multi-hit attack. This might create an issue where smaller, faster, or quicker enemies can dodge parts of the multi-hit on the hold skill attack. I think tapping is generally looking to be quicker and safer, and either way, for me, I'd be waiting for them to close the gap since it's more beneficial than if Qiuyuan were to initiate. So what's the verdict on Qiuyuan? Can there be one? Well, I'm sure his toenails need a trimming if he's been away from wherever he tends to stay. But he's interesting for sure, and I think for people who are obsessed with the meta, getting him wouldn't be on the top of the priority list. At the very least, advocating for him would come with some caveats, where people would say not to pull for him if you don't have X character. In this case, it'd be Galbrena or Frilova, or maybe some others. I would be getting him regardless because he's a cool, sexy green man with a sick playstyle, awesome design, and caring about meta is about as useful as Galbrena caring about Fate. I do think he offers value to you though, but I cannot give a 100% confident answer on telling you to pull when his banner comes. There are some aspects that are just unclear to me at this pre-release point. I expect him to be a quiet unit that'll go under the radar except for those who already love him, like me. I do think he will shine more than we think, and even brighter later on. Qiuyuan will be serving as a future-proof echo buffer for anyone else later down the line if we get another Galbrena kind of unit, but don't take that stance as the main reason for getting him. All I can say for sure is I would give him my head.
Your head belongs to me.
But do let me know what you think of our sexy green man, and if you plan on getting him. Again, there will be a follow-up to this when he's out, so if you think I offer enough, I'd appreciate a like and sub. In any case, thank you for letting me take your time, and be safe out there.